Most real estate networking events aren't lead generators. They're just social clubs for people who aren't actually closing deals. You're not building a pipeline. You're just wasting gas money.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. We wanted to talk today about why most networking events are a total waste of time, and more specifically, most real estate networking events. I think people, sign up for these events, whether it's like Bigger Pockets or whatever, which I heard they're going out of business. Hopefully they're okay. I feel for them. I'm just joking. But they sign up for these real estate events. They think they're going to get a ton out of it, and they go. And there's not really any fruitful, results that come from them. And so I think it's interesting because there's always like these, this anticipated huge value. And then you go home and it's like back to normal. So I want to talk about why I think most are a big waste of time. And also, to add to that, how do we actually go and derive value and actually go get something that's tangibly value for your life, build relationships? What does that look like? So I feel like this is a great topic for Gabe specifically, because you're like the king of building actual genuine relationships. And you've done a lot of networking events. And so have I. And I think for you, you're one of the few that actually has derived value from these. So I wanted to open up the topic of conversation and jump in.
Hey, I didn't say they were a waste of time. You did. So maybe
I think it's what you make it.
Yeah, it is what you make it. I think that, like anything in life, I actually it reminds me of the gym. I always correlate real estate to the gym. I hate the expression of the hardest part is just showing up. Because first of all, that's not true. That's the easiest fucking part is to show up. It's just show up. It's what you do when you're there, right? So whether it's a networking event or it's the gym, showing up is not the hardest fucking part. That's the easiest part. You show up, but then what do you do while you're there? And then more importantly, what do you do when you leave? So I agree, events, networking events, real estate networking events can be a waste of time. They can, you can show up and not meet people and not build relationships and not take in the information. But I think the biggest challenge I see is people go expecting someone to give them all the answers. And they leave there motivated, but motivation only lasts so long. And then it's what do you do with the information that you got? What do you do with, the people that you met? How do you build and, nurture those relationships? And what do you do when you get back home and you're full of motivation, but no direction? So I think, yeah, they can be a waste of time, but they can also be extremely, extremely valuable.
Yeah, it's what you make it. It's just like you said, it's a gym. You could go there and barely show up and go in there and, lift a couple weights and go walk on the treadmill or whatever. And it's oh, I keep going to the gym and my results suck. Well, I think it's a great parallel. I think a lot of people too show up to these events, whether it's a mastermind or a larger networking event, like a Bigger Pockets BP Con. And they show up with an attitude where it's what's in it for me? What's in it for me? What's in it for me? And I think that the most successful people I know, and you included, Gabe, it's always well, how can I build really good relationships, and how can I provide value? How could I help somebody? How could I help make a connection? I've seen you do it a lot, where it's you make a valuable connection, or you change someone's life through tactical advice or your experience. And I think that's, showing up with a giving attitude and an attitude of how do I actually add value to people's lives? That's the minority of people going to events. Most people are going to go, what's in it for me? I paid this $300 or $500 or $2,000, whatever that is. And they're now I need to get something out of this. And that transactional sort of behavior, I think, is detrimental to people's value over time. Yeah, maybe you'll get some things short term, but long term, you're not going to build really valuable relationships. So that's one of my first sort of gotcha or words of advice is, how do you go and offer value and actually be a resource for somebody else and build a valuable relationship? Relationships are huge. That one of the things is a lot of people go home and they never talk to them again. They're oh, I met so-and-so and they're amazing and we connected and it was great. We had a great conversation and we're never going to talk again. And it's well, that's kind of a wasted connection. And so I think making those valuable relationships is important, because this is a team sport, man. I look back, I didn't believe this was a team sport for a long time. And my portfolio reflected that. I just couldn't get ground. And once I started to realize, hey, this is relationships as a team sport, I need to build my small nucleus of people that I like, know, and trust, and they trust me. That I think changed things for me. So I'm maybe talk about your relationship. I mean, you've been to a lot of events and networking. I think you've done it right, but like, how has that changed your life actually going in with the right attitude?
Yeah, I think relationships are definitely the key, but also like I want to build friendships. I want to build friendships with people, that I want to be around, that I enjoy the conversation. I actually don't do a lot, like I don't do a lot of partnership. I'm not out there like raising a bunch of capital. I'm not trying to create a bunch of partnerships, but I enjoy people. I enjoy building relationships and more importantly, friendships. Because if I have a problem or even a win that I want to share, like I have people in my life all over the country, really all over the world that I can connect with. Like, last time I went out to Arizona, like I ended up on a hike with a bunch of real estate investors. I don't do business with any of them, right? Like, but it's all investors. So like as we're hiking this mountain, it's all high level conversation with other investors. And so I think it's less about like, I think a lot of people go there trying to create these false connections. Like, they want to like bring these people into their life to better their life in some way, but they're not actually trying to create a friendship. I have a lot of friends and acquaintances that just happen to also be in real estate. So when we do get together, it's like, I'm not trying to get anything from them. It's just a part of the natural conversation. We end up talking about business, about real estate, about life. And oftentimes that leads to a conversation that sparks an idea, or I'm like, oh my gosh, I should connect with them. They're like, oh, here's his number. Right. And so it's this real organic relationship building, networking. I actually show up to events with, sometimes I hear there's not a right or wrong way in the sense of like how you show up. I hear some people say like show up to an event with an intention, or I've been to events where they're like, what is your intention coming here? I actually take the opposite approach. I try to show up with no expectation, and I always leave an event with like the takeaway that I was meant to have, whether it's an idea, a relationship, a conversation. So I actually try to go with no expectation. And I'm not a big note taker. I'm not a bit, but I always come back, and the thing that I was supposed to learn, the relationship I was supposed to make, it's always really, really clear, right? When I get home and I'm back kind of in my little more of a normal routine, I'm like, oh, that was my takeaway. That was the conversation I was supposed to have. That was the thing I was supposed to learn. That's the connection I was supposed to make.
I like that. And I think you mentioned something that's interesting, and that is like building relationships that are friends, not like business relationships, now that's one thing I think Travis is really bad at is he has a low emotional IQ. And so it's hard to make friends. No, I'm joking. But I did hear the last podcast, and he just railed me. So it's like, I owe him a couple shots across the bow. No, so I think that building friendships is important though, because, and you think about, when I think about who I want to do business with, like even if it comes to that, and I'm like, I want to do business with people that are actually my friends, not just business acquaintances or somebody I met at an event who, it's not like I look around and I'm like, oh man, they're the best note taker. They took down every single slide and took pictures and whatever, and then ask a bunch of I always think about internally, like, I want to do business with people I like, know, and trust, and are actually my friends. So I think getting people to that place where they're an actual friend. I look at my like a mortgage lender who you referred to as Mark, and it's like, he's one of my buddies now. Like, we love to just jump on the call and catch up like, he's a friend of mine, and we enjoy doing business together because we can actually do something that's mutually beneficial, but also enjoy each other's presence. So I think the friend thing, getting people, this is a place where you want to get people to friend zone, by the way. And so, like dating. So like, but it's really important because like, those are the people you want to do business with. I think the other thing too, and I'm going to go away from relationships for a second. I think relationships are the number one, but also like, instead of tactics, yeah, tactics are fine. Learning the numbers are good. Like learning some sort of, educational takeaways. Sure, that's fine. But I think the question for me is like, how does my behavior change after an event? Because like behavior is the seed for results. It's not, and that's an ongoing behavior. Like going home and adopting something that's like habitual, that's like, and I think that when you go to an event, you need to ask yourself, I learned all this stuff, I met all these people, but how does my day-to-day change? How does my day-to-day action change? And that's that's the seed. That's at the very nucleus of change, I think, is taking away behavior. And so I've noticed, I went to an event. I went to Tony Robbins this last year. Super rah, super, but very like it changed the way I think in some ways, and I've been really purposeful to change my behavior and therefore change my results. And so I'm really trying to stick to that because I think that that's the one thing that's going to change your results over time. It's not going home and saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm pumped up for 2 weeks," and then you fizzle out. You've got to maintain that consistency.
Yeah, I think events are also an opportunity to gain clarity, right? Because events, especially big ones, they can be really noisy, right? A lot of times there's kind of a main speaker, and then there's these break off, these kind of break off, um, you know, talks and whatnot. And so sometimes people leave an event and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to be a wholesaler. I'm going to be a house flipper. I'm going to start a property management company. I'm going to buy an old. I'm going to develop." And now they're like more confused than they were before because what I see, and it can be dangerous, is adopting other people's goals. And so I think you need to be clear on what you want your life to look like. And if real estate is going to be part of that path, how you're going to use real estate to create the life you want. But also make sure you're not adopting other people's goals if they don't align with what you want. Because I've seen people, it is kind of that rah, they go to an event, they get all hyped up, but they've been told 10 different things by 10 different people that are killing it in 10 different areas. And it's unlikely that they're going to be able to go home and kill it in all 10 of those areas. And then they're not focused and then they're more confused, right? And so I think having that clarity before you go of what you want your life to look like and how real estate's going to get you there, and then narrow it down. Like find the person that's using real estate to live the life closest to what you want. Because you can go to these events, and I mean, I've been to real estate events where I see some burnt out, like real estate investors, right, that are working 100 plus hours a week. Their life seems like it sucks. They live at the office. Like that's not the life that I would want. So I don't want to copy what they're doing that they've been doing the last, 20 years. So I think that's an important piece. And then, I think people go for different reasons. You have people who they go to let everyone know how cool and fucking smart they are. Like they need to make sure everybody knows, how many units they own and how wealthy they are and how cool they are. And, maybe they're the best dressed person there. That's it's always a red flag for me. And then you have people show up just to take pictures with, famous, kind of niche famous real estate investors and post it on their social. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with, getting your picture with, Beardy Brandon or, whoever else. Like
Mitchell England or whoever. Yeah.
England, yeah. Right. But make sure like you're going for the right reason. Like if you're going just for the picture, you're just going for ego to tell people how successful you are, I don't think you're going to get much out of an event.
I agree, man. I'm going to go back in in the conversation there. You talked about finding people living the life you want. I think that's a big one because events are a big opportunity to go actually break into groups or folks and build actual like good relationships, like friendships with people that are living the life you want. Be careful who you listen to. I've also seen people do exactly what you're talking about, where they go to these events, they find somebody who's crushing it in real estate. By the way, crushing it in real estate does not mean you're living a good life. Okay. You could have a ton of transactions going and a bunch of developments and flip properties and all this other shit. And your life sucks. Your relationship sucks. Your health sucks. Your kids don't know you, all those things. Crushing it in real estate does not mean a good life. So I think finding people that are doing things in real estate in the small sort of like, they're taking the small path in real estate that's actually giving them a life and then building friendships with those folks. The problem with real estate, man, I think is like, it's very wide. When you get into real estate, the word real estate encompasses so much. And there's so many people in real estate who hate their lives just as much as people on the corporate ladder, I would argue. I've met flippers that are stressed all the time. They've got $2 million in debt out. They've got contractors not showing up. They've got tools that are being stolen, market adjustments, and they're adjusting prices. Like you can be in real estate full-time investor, quote unquote investor. I don't really call flipping investing, but you can be in real estate as a full-time guy or gal and be totally miserable. So find people that you're like, look, I think their values aligned. And by the way, for me, it's always been like, who looks healthy? who has a good relationship with their wife and their kids, who goes on adventures, who has flexibility in time and looks rested and happy. It's kind of like all these things are the byproduct.
Describing me, Mitch. I feel like you just described.
Well, I'm not describing Travis. That's for fucking sure. So no, I think I'm just teasing. So I think yeah, he's a fine man. He's a specimen. So, but what I'm saying though is like figure out who those people are and look away from real estate for a second and look at the results. What life are they actually living? And then build relationships with those folks, and not just like a business relationship, like, oh, I got a new contact, like a friendship. And people want to do business with people that they're friends with, or at least hang out with. And it doesn't have to be business, like you said. It could just be, hey, we're friends and we're hanging out and we can glean knowledge off each other. We can encourage each other. We can mentor each other, all those things. I mean, you and I haven't done a real estate deal together. Dude, you're one of my best mentors. I mean, and like, I can reflect ideas off of you. I can, all these things. Maybe we'll do a deal together someday, but it doesn't have to be where you're like all tied up in all these deals and there's money exchange and all this stuff. It could just be this genuine friendship where you lean on each other and you help each other out. So, yeah, man, I think we beat this one to death, but it's a cool topic because people waste their time. And I'll go back to the very beginning. I said most network events are a waste of time. I would say almost all of them can be valuable if you actually navigate it correctly.